Innes, the climate wars, I don't think they're over. Once upon a time, I remember AIG Group getting behind a price on carbon as the best way to tackle climate change. Has that materially shifted, though, in the last decade?
Well, Laura, you're right. We've had over 15 years at least of climate wars, and there is still a lot more to run. Yesterday's announcement from the Prime Minister was another stage in that battle, I'll call it that. But when we have to get to 2050, you're thinking we're 10 to 12 elections from now, if you can believe that, or even want to contemplate that. So it's going to be an issue that's going to be around for a long time to come. Yesterday was very important because it signalled that both political sides have now signed up to the notion of net zero by 2050. They're committed to it. That does mean a lot in terms of international investment. The Prime Minister was right. We were facing the prospect of an international capital strike if we didn't sign up. That's the reality of the situation. And now we just need to work through how we get there. And both political parties will have different courses, trajectories to get there, different ambitions, different emphasis on technology and the like. So all that's going to play out. So this isn't over, but yesterday was a very positive step, but a lot more needs to happen between now and 2050, obviously.
Indeed. With the intervening elections, you say there'll be 12, there'll be changes of party. What does this mean for industry groups like the ones that you represent and the framework in which they're operating? Does it make it difficult that there is a bipartisan headline here, but the way to get there is still very different between the two major parties?
Well, you're right, Laura. There's sort of two or three different aspects of this. One is, look, the commitment now by both parties is a very positive thing. So that gives industry and their investors and their employees certainty that we know what the target is. So that's a good thing. There's obviously going to be differences between parties. It's politics, after all, as to how we get there. But the fact that both are committed is a positive thing because it does allow business to have that certainty to know that this is now a national ambition signed on to by both sides. So that's really positive. Look, business is going to carry a huge load in this. Business is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting here. Let's be honest about this. So to get that certainty is positive because it allows them to be able to have clear line of sight around investment decisions that go into electricity, it goes into energy efficiency, it goes into development of new technology, goes into a long-term planning for business. So, and energy is now more important than ever as part of that long-term planning conversation. So that's a very positive thing, and that's why yesterday was a bit of a high water mark in what has been a pretty low water mark debate.
Indeed, it has, and you've seen every iteration of it, Innes. Now, I can't get a straight answer out of either side of politics about this, so I'll try with you. What is the material difference between Labor and the Coalition at the moment on their climate policies?
Well, I think what you'll see is that, I would expect from everything we've heard and been talking to them about and hearing is that Labor will probably go into the next election, you'd expect, with more ambition around 2030 as a target. We are signed on to 26 to 28% emissions reduction. We're going to easily exceed that. We'll be somewhere around 30 to 35, depending on the counting methodology that you have, the 35% emissions reduction in 2005. So I think that's where the difference will be in terms of aspiration. The government quite clearly is talking up a long-term plan here based on development of new technology, huge investment in new technologies. And I think Labor will probably look to do something more in the short term. So you'll just see differences in trajectory to get to the same place.
Yeah, $120 billion worth of investment. I mean, if you want to pin down the cost of what action looks like, is it fair to look at that, or the government is selling it as an investment, not a gamble per se, and a bit of a down payment? If we develop these technologies, we could stand to make money out of them. So it does beg the question: if you're putting technology, all your eggs in the technology basket per se, why would you rule out nuclear?
Well, I don't think anyone should rule out nuclear. I think that's sort of as clear as the nose on people's faces that nuclear has got to be part of the conversation. We cannot avoid it, and nor should we. Other countries around the world are re-looking at nuclear. We are energy rich in Australia. We have 40% of the world's uranium deposits. We've just gone nuclear with our submarines. So off the back of that, we've got to have some nuclear industrial capability in Australia. The problem with nuclear is that it takes a long time to build, but everything in this conversation is going to take a long time to build and to come to fruition. So, and you might think that nuclear too, but the technology will move on very quickly. But in terms of emissions intensity, it is right up there as an option. But it's not the only egg in the basket, and there's a whole lot of others. We're obviously doing a lot of investment in hydrogen, large-scale solar, offshore wind. There's battery technology. There are many eggs in the energy basket at the moment, but nuclear has to be one of them.